He announced to the entire nation that I stole campaign funds, and a moment later he raised his champagne glass and smiled at me from the stage with that same sincere smile we had rehearsed for hours. The cameras turned. My colleagues stepped back. And I saw in his eyes the same thing prey sees before a predator strikes. He was enjoying this. Before we continue and find out how it all began, please subscribe and leave a like. We truly love to read your comments below. I stood in the center of the ballroom and felt the walls closing in. The chandeliers above me blazed with 1,000 points of light. The crowd roared. Champagne bottles popped like gunfire. Senator-elect Marcus Reeves stood on the stage with his arms raised in victory, his smile bright enough to blind. I had built this moment. Every speech, every rally, every calculated media appearance, every poll number that climbed, every donor I had courted, every strategy session that stretched past midnight. This was my work. My triumph. He knew it. I knew it. Everyone in this room knew it. He looked down at me from the stage. Our eyes met. For 1 second I saw something flicker across his face. Something cold. Something wrong. Then he smiled wider and turned back to the cameras. I told myself I was imagining things. The exhaustion was getting to me. 18 months of campaigning would do that. 18 months of 16-hour days and sleeping in hotels and living on coffee and adrenaline. I deserved to celebrate. I had earned this. The crowd pressed closer. Hands clapped my shoulders. Voices shouted congratulations. I smiled and nodded and accepted the praise. But that cold feeling stayed in my stomach. That flicker in Marcus's eyes. I couldn't shake it. My phone buzzed in my clutch. I pulled it out. A text from an unknown number. Just 2 words. Check CNN. I frowned. We were already on every network. Marcus's victory speech was being broadcast live across the country. What else could there be? I pushed through the crowd toward the bar. The bartender had a small TV mounted on the wall behind him. I pointed up at it. Can you switch to CNN? He nodded and changed the channel. The screen filled with a news anchor's serious face. The cheering at the bottom made my blood stop moving. Breaking: campaign finance scandal rocks Senate race. I stared at the screen. The anchor was talking about Marcus's campaign, about illegal donations, about shell companies and dark money, about financial records that had just been leaked to the press. The words washed over me like ice water. I couldn't process them. This was impossible. We had been careful. Everything was legal. Everything was vetted. I had made sure of it. Then the anchor said my name. Sources close to the campaign say that Finance Director Laura Hastings orchestrated the scheme. The room tilted. My hands gripped the bar to keep myself upright. Finance Director. That was me. I was Laura Hastings. And I had orchestrated nothing. I had done everything by the book. Every donation had been screened. Every expense had been documented. Every dollar had been accounted for. My phone exploded with notifications. Texts. Calls. Emails. I looked down at the screen and watched the messages pile up. Reporters. Colleagues. Friends. Everyone wanted a statement. Everyone wanted to know if it was true. If I had really done it. If I had really betrayed everything I believed in for money. I looked back at the stage. Marcus was still speaking. Still smiling. Still waving to the crowd. He hadn't mentioned the news. Hadn't acknowledged it. He was pretending it didn't exist. Or maybe he didn't know yet. Maybe his staff hadn't told him. Maybe in 5 minutes he would come down from that stage and look at me with shock and horror, and tell me we would fight this together. But I knew better. That flicker in his eyes. That cold thing I had seen. He had known. He had known before he ever walked onto that stage. This wasn't a surprise. This was a plan. My deputy campaign manager appeared at my elbow. Trevor. Young, ambitious, always 3 steps behind me in every meeting. He looked pale. His eyes were wide with something that might have been fear or might have been excitement. Laura, we need to talk. I turned to face him. What's going on? Not here. He grabbed my arm and pulled me toward a side door. I followed him into a service hallway. The sounds of the celebration faded behind us. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed and flickered. Trevor let go of my arm and ran his hand through his hair. He looked like he might throw up. Tell me, I said. Marcus is about to make a statement. About the allegations. His lawyers drafted it an hour ago. An hour ago. Before the news broke. Before anyone knew. What does it say? Trevor couldn't meet my eyes. He's calling for a full investigation. He's saying he had no knowledge of any illegal activity. He's saying that if anyone on his staff broke the law, they'll be held accountable. The words hit me like bullets. One after another. Each one finding its mark. He's blaming me. Laura. He's throwing me under the bus. He's protecting the seat. Trevor's voice cracked. If the scandal sticks to him, the governor won't certify the results. The election could be overturned. He has to distance himself. By destroying me. I laughed. Sounded wrong. Bitter. I didn't do anything, Trevor. You know that. You were there for every decision. Every meeting. Every filing. I know. He looked miserable. But the documents they leaked. They have your signature on them. Your emails. Your authorization codes. Because I was the finance director. That was my job. That doesn't mean I committed fraud. I know, he said again. But it looks bad, Laura. It looks really bad. And Marcus can't afford to look bad right now. I stared at him. At this kid I had mentored. This kid I had taught everything I knew about political campaigns. This kid who was now standing in a hallway telling me that my career was over because it was convenient for someone else. What did they offer you? He blinked. What? What did Marcus offer you to sell me out? Deputy Chief of Staff? Communications Director? I watched his face. Watched the guilt bloom across it like blood in water. Chief of Staff. Wow. That's quite a promotion. It's not like that. It's exactly like that. I stepped closer to him. You're going to stand next to Marcus when he makes his statement. You're going to nod along when he says he's shocked and disappointed. You're going to help him bury me. And in return you get everything you ever wanted. Trevor's jaw tightened. What was I supposed to do? Fall on the sword with you? Destroy my career because Marcus decided to sacrifice you? You were supposed to tell me. My voice came out quiet. Cold. You were supposed to give me a chance to defend myself. You were supposed to act like we were on the same team. We're not on the same team anymore, Laura. You're toxic now. Anyone who stands next to you is finished. He backed toward the door. I'm sorry. I really am. But I have to think about my future. He left. The door swung shut behind him. I stood alone in the hallway under the flickering lights. My phone kept buzzing. The celebration kept roaring on the other side of the wall. And I understood with perfect clarity that my life as I knew it was over. I walked back into the ballroom. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to see it happen. Maybe I needed to watch Marcus destroy me in real time. Maybe I was still hoping I had misunderstood. That there was some explanation. Some way this could all make sense. The crowd had shifted. People were clustered around phones and tablets. Whispers cut through the celebration like knives. I saw heads turn toward me. Eyes followed me as I moved through the room. Some looked curious. Some looked horrified. Some looked hungry. The vultures were already circling. Marcus stood at a podium now. His campaign manager was next to him. His wife stood on his other side, her hand on his arm, her face arranged in an expression of concerned support. Trevor had joined them on stage. He stood in the back row of staffers. He wouldn't look at me. Ladies and gentlemen. Marcus's voice cut through the noise. The room fell silent. I need to address some serious allegations that have just come to light. His tone was perfect. Somber. Disappointed. The voice of a man who had been betrayed by someone he trusted. I had coached him on that tone. I had taught him how to convey sincerity, how to make people believe he cared. He was using everything I had taught him against me. Tonight should be a celebration. We ran a campaign based on integrity and transparency. We promised the people of this state that we would fight corruption in Washington, that we would be different, that we would be better. He paused. Let the words settle. But it appears that someone on my team violated that trust. The cameras were all on him now. Every major network. Streaming live across the country. Millions of people watching. This was the moment. This was where he would end me. I have just learned that my finance director, Laura Hastings, is being investigated for serious campaign finance violations. The documents that have been released to the press suggest a pattern of illegal donations, money laundering, and fraud. His voice grew harder. If these allegations are true, I am shocked and appalled. I trusted Laura. I believed in her. But I will not protect anyone who breaks the law. Not even someone who helped build this campaign. The room erupted. Cameras swung toward me. Reporters surged forward. I stood frozen in the middle of the ballroom. I felt every eye on me. Every lens pointed at my face. I knew how this looked. The guilty party caught in the act. The corrupt operative trying to hide in the crowd. Marcus kept talking. I am calling for an immediate and thorough investigation. I will cooperate fully with law enforcement. I will turn over every document, every email, every piece of evidence. And if Laura Hastings broke the law, she will face the consequences. He looked directly at me. His eyes were ice. I will not let one person's greed destroy everything we've built. One person's greed. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run up on that stage and tear the microphone from his hands and tell everyone the truth. But what was the truth? I didn't even know. I didn't know what he had done. I didn't know how he had framed me. I didn't know what evidence he had manufactured. All I knew was that he had spent months planning this. Months setting me up. Months building a case against me so that when the moment came, he could sacrifice me without hesitation. A reporter shoved a microphone in my face. Ms. Hastings, do you have a response to Senator-elect Reeves's statement? I stared at her. My mind was blank. Empty. What could I say? That I was innocent? That Marcus was lying? Who would believe me? I was the finance director. My name was on the documents. My signature. My authorization. It didn't matter that I hadn't done anything wrong. It only mattered how it looked. And it looked damning. No comment, I said. Did you steal money from the campaign? Did you know the donations were illegal? How long have you been planning this? The questions came faster. Harsher. More reporters crowded around me. I pushed through them. I needed to get out. I needed air. I needed space to think. But they followed me. Cameras tracked my every move. I could already see the headlines. The guilty flee. The corrupt run. The traitor escapes. I made it to the lobby. My hands were shaking. My breath came in short gasps. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. I sent a text. Emergency. Call me now. A hand grabbed my shoulder. I spun around. Security. Hotel security. Two men in dark suits with earpieces and serious faces. Ma'am, we need you to leave the premises. What? Senator-elect Reeves has requested that you be removed from the venue. You're no longer welcome at this event. I laughed again. That same bitter, broken sound. I organized this event. I booked this venue. I planned every detail. Ma'am, please don't make this difficult. They escorted me out. Through the lobby. Past the front desk. Out onto the street. The November air hit me like a slap. Cold. Sharp. Real. I stood on the sidewalk in my cocktail dress and heels and watched the door close behind me. Inside, the celebration continued. Outside, my life was ending. My phone buzzed. Not my lawyer. A news alert. Breaking: federal prosecutors open investigation into Laura Hastings. Another buzz. Campaign finance expert says evidence against Hastings is overwhelming. Another. Senator-elect Reeves pledges full cooperation with fraud investigation. They were moving fast. Marcus's team was feeding the story, feeding the narrative. By morning, I would be convicted in the court of public opinion. By the end of the week, I would probably be arrested. And Marcus would ride this wave all the way to Washington. The crusader against corruption. The man who rooted out fraud in his own campaign. The hero who chose justice over loyalty. I needed a plan. I needed to think. But my brain wouldn't work. Everything was moving too fast. Everything was falling apart. I had spent 18 months building Marcus's campaign, building his image, building his victory. And in one night, he had used everything I created to destroy me. A town car pulled up to the curb. The back door opened. A man stepped out. Tall, silver-haired, expensive suit. I recognized him immediately. Richard Chun. Political consultant. Campaign strategist. The man who had made careers and broken rivals for 30 years. He was a legend. A ghost. Most people didn't even know what he looked like. He operated in the shadows. He pulled strings. He made things happen. Ms. Hastings. His voice was calm. Measured. You look like you could use a ride. I stared at him. Who are you working for? Right now? No one. Tomorrow? He smiled. That depends on you. I don't understand. Get in the car, Laura. Let's talk somewhere private. Somewhere the cameras can't find you. I looked back at the hotel. At the lights and the crowd and the celebration that had ejected me like poison. My phone screen glowed in my hand. At the messages piling up. At the news alerts destroying my reputation in real time. I looked at Richard Chun standing beside his town car with his hand extended like salvation. I got in the car. The car pulled away from the curb. The hotel disappeared behind us. The city lights blurred past the windows. Richard Chun sat across from me in the leather seat. He didn't speak. He just watched me with those sharp, calculating eyes. The eyes of a man who had seen everything. Who had done everything. Who knew how the game was really played. Where are we going? I asked. Somewhere quiet. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey from a crystal decanter. He handed one to me. You're going to need this. I took the glass. My hands were still shaking. The whiskey burned going down. It helped. Not much. But enough. Why are you here? Because Marcus Reeves just made a very stupid mistake. Richard leaned back in his seat. He thinks he's clever. He thinks he's covered his tracks. He thinks sacrificing you will save him. He smiled. He's wrong. You know about the fraud. Of course I know. I know everything about Marcus's campaign. I know about the shell companies, the offshore accounts, the illegal donations. I know exactly how he funneled money through your finance department. I know how he forged your signatures. I know how he used your authorization codes. He took a sip of his whiskey. I know because I've been investigating him for 6 months. My mind raced. Who hired you? Governor Patricia Walsh. I knew that name. Everyone in politics knew that name. Patricia Walsh. 3-term governor. Marcus's biggest rival. The woman he had beaten in the primary. The woman who had smiled and conceded and endorsed him for the good of the party. The woman who had never forgiven him for winning. She's planning something, I said. She's planning to destroy him. Marcus humiliated her. He called her corrupt. He said she represented the old guard. The establishment. Everything wrong with politics. Richard's smile widened. And now she has proof that he's everything he accused her of being. A fraud. A criminal. A liar. Then why hasn't she released it? Why hasn't she gone to the press? Because the election is over. Marcus won. If she releases the evidence now, she looks like a sore loser. A bitter rival trying to overturn the results. The party would never forgive her. The voters would see her as petty and vindictive. He set down his glass. No. She needs someone else to take Marcus down. Someone with credibility. Someone with nothing to lose. I understood. Me. You. Not today. But in 3 months. 6 months? After you've been cleared of all charges? After the investigation proves you were innocent? After the evidence shows that Marcus set you up? Richard leaned forward. Then you'll be the most credible witness in America. The victim who fought back. The truth-teller who refused to stay silent. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to believe him. But I knew how this worked. I knew how politics destroyed people. The investigation could take years. And even if I'm cleared, my reputation is finished. No one will hire me. No one will work with me. I'll be toxic forever. Unless you're working for someone more powerful than Marcus Reeves. Someone who can protect you. Someone who can rebuild your career. He pulled out a folder from the briefcase beside him. He set it on the seat between us. Governor Walsh is planning a presidential run. And she needs a campaign manager who is brilliant, ruthless, and understands exactly how dirty this game can get. I stared at the folder. I didn't open it. She wants to hire me? The woman under federal investigation for fraud? She wants to hire you after you're cleared. After you've helped us destroy Marcus. After you've proven that you're willing to do whatever it takes to win. Richard tapped the folder. This contains everything we have on Marcus. Bank records, email chains, phone logs, testimony from witnesses. All the evidence Walsh has been collecting. All the proof you need to clear your name. Why are you giving this to me? Because we need you to be smart about it. If Walsh releases this information, Marcus's lawyers will claim it's politically motivated. They'll tie it up in court for years. But if you release it, if you go to the FBI with evidence that proves you were framed, that you were the victim of a criminal conspiracy, he smiled. That's a different story. That's justice. That's a woman fighting back against the man who tried to destroy her. The car stopped. We were parked outside a hotel. Not the Victory Party Hotel. Somewhere else. Somewhere anonymous. Richard handed me a keycard. Room 1847. Everything you need is in that folder: evidence, legal contacts. A burner phone with a direct line to Walsh's legal team. You have 48 hours to decide. Decide what? Whether you want to run. Whether you want to hide. Whether you want to disappear and let Marcus win. Or whether you want to fight back. He opened the door. Cold air rushed in. Walsh can protect you, Laura. She can give you resources. Money. Lawyers. Political cover. But only if you're willing to work with us. Only if you're willing to help us take Marcus down. I got out of the car. I stood on the sidewalk with the folder in my hands. The weight of it. The promise of it. The danger of it. What if I say no? Then you're on your own. Marcus's machine will grind you into dust. The federal prosecutors will build their case. Your friends will abandon you. Your family will suffer. And in 2 years, you'll be in prison for crimes you didn't commit while Marcus is voting on legislation in Washington. Richard's face was hard now. Or you can fight. You can use what's in that folder to prove your innocence. You can destroy the man who tried to destroy you. And you can help elect a president who will owe you everything. The car door closed. The town car pulled away. I watched it disappear into the night. Then I looked down at the folder in my hands. I thought about Marcus on that stage. His smile. His lies. His willingness to sacrifice me without hesitation. I thought about Trevor. About all the people who had worked beside me for 18 months and then vanished the moment I became a liability. I thought about the life I had built. The career I had spent 15 years creating. The reputation I had earned. All of it gone in one night because it was convenient for someone else. I walked into the hotel. I rode the elevator to the 18th floor. I opened the door to room 1847. The room was small. Clean. Anonymous. A bed. A desk. A chair. Nothing personal. Nothing permanent. The perfect place to disappear. I sat at the desk and opened the folder. The evidence spilled out. Bank statements showing transfers from Marcus's personal accounts to shell companies. Emails between Marcus and his lawyer discussing how to route donations through my department. Phone logs proving Marcus had met with illegal donors. Testimony from a forensic accountant proved that my signatures had been digitally forged. Text messages between Marcus and Trevor planning exactly how to frame me. It was all there. Everything I needed. Everything that would prove I was innocent. Everything that would prove Marcus was guilty. My phone buzzed. My lawyer. Finally. I answered. David. Laura. His voice was tight. Worried. I just saw the news. Tell me it's not true. It's not true. Marcus framed me. Silence. Long. Heavy. Then can you prove that? I looked at the documents spread across the desk. At the evidence that could save me. At the deal that Richard Chun had offered. Yes, I can prove it. Then we need to meet. Tonight. Right now. Before the FBI comes knocking. He paused. Where are you? I almost told him. Almost gave him the address. Almost let him come here and look at the evidence and start building my defense. But something stopped me. Some instinct. Some warning bell in my brain. David was a good lawyer. He had been my lawyer for 5 years. But he was also careful. He was also connected. He was also someone who would think very hard about whether defending me was worth the risk to his reputation. I'll call you tomorrow, I said. I need to think. Laura, you don't have time to think. The FBI will want to question you. If you lawyer up now, if you cooperate, we can get ahead of this. Tomorrow, I said again. I hung up. I sat in the silence of the hotel room. I thought about Richard Chin's offer, about Governor Walsh, about the choice I was being given: run or fight, hide or strike back, accept defeat or play the game even dirtier than Marcus had played it. I thought about who I was, who I had been. I had spent my entire career believing in rules, in process, in doing things the right way. I had built campaigns on integrity and transparency. I had convinced candidates to take the high road. I had believed that if you worked hard enough, if you were smart enough, if you played by the rules, you would win. Marcus had taught me the truth. The rules were for suckers. The system was rigged. The only thing that mattered was power. The willingness to do whatever it took. The willingness to sacrifice anyone who got in your way. I picked up the burner phone from the folder. I stared at it. One call. That was all it would take. One call to Walsh's team. One commitment to their plan. One agreement to become the weapon they would use against Marcus. But it wouldn't just be about Marcus. It would be about Walsh. About helping her become president. About tying my future to hers. About becoming exactly what Marcus had accused me of being. A political operative with no principles. Someone who would do anything to win. I set down the phone. I wasn't ready. Not yet. I needed time. I needed to think. I needed to understand exactly what I was agreeing to. I lay down on the bed. I stared at the ceiling. My phone kept buzzing. Messages I didn't read. Calls I didn't answer. The world moving on without me. My life collapsing in real time. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I just lay there and felt the anger building. Growing. Turning from shock into something harder. Something colder. Something that felt almost like clarity. Marcus thought he had destroyed me. He thought I would run. He thought I would break. He thought I was weak enough to accept my fate. He was wrong. Morning came. Gray light filtered through the hotel curtains. I hadn't slept. I sat at the desk with cold coffee and the evidence scattered in front of me. I had read every document 3 times. I had memorized every transaction, every forged signature, every lie Marcus had built. My phone had stopped buzzing sometime around 4 in the morning. Picked it up now. 73 missed calls. 216 text messages. 347 emails. I scrolled through them. The pattern was clear. The people who mattered had already made their choice. My mother had called 6 times. She left 1 voicemail. "Laura, honey, please call me. The reporters are at the house. They're asking questions. Your father is upset. We don't understand what's happening. Please just tell us you didn't do this." Even my mother wasn't sure. Even the woman who raised me thought I might be guilty. I kept scrolling. Friends from college. Former colleagues. People I had worked with on other campaigns. Some messages were supportive. Most were careful. Cautious. The kind of messages people send when they want to seem loyal but don't want to be associated with scandal. "Thinking of you. Here if you need anything. Let me know how I can help." Empty words. Safe words. Words that meant nothing. 3 people had already blocked me. I could see it. Messages that wouldn't deliver. Numbers that went straight to a generic voicemail. They had erased me from their contacts. From their lives. Like I was a virus they needed to quarantine. I opened my email. The professional destruction was faster there. More efficient. 2 clients had already terminated their contracts. Political consultants I had worked with for years. They sent formal letters through their lawyers. Due to recent events. Until the situation is resolved. We wish you the best. Corporate speak for "you're toxic and we can't be near you." My bank app showed a new notification. I opened it. My account had been frozen. A legal hold. The FBI had moved fast. They were seizing my assets. Looking for evidence of the money I had supposedly stolen. Money that didn't exist. Money I had never touched. I had $4,000 in checking. Frozen. $32,000 in savings. Frozen. My retirement account. Frozen. Everything I had earned. Everything I had saved. Gone. Locked away while they built their case. I thought about running. About using the evidence in the folder to disappear. To flee the country before they could arrest me. People did it. People with resources. But I didn't have resources anymore. I had a frozen bank account and a stack of credit cards that would probably stop working by noon. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello. Laura Hastings? A woman's voice. Professional. Cold. Yes. This is Special Agent Victoria Morgan with the FBI. I need you to come in for questioning regarding the campaign finance investigation. My stomach dropped. I have a lawyer. That's fine. Bring your lawyer. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, Ms. Hastings. But we will be speaking with you. Today. Am I under arrest? Not yet. But if you don't cooperate, that could change very quickly. She paused. We have a lot of evidence, Ms. Hastings. Documents with your signature. Emails from your account. Authorization codes only you had access to. This will go much easier if you just tell us the truth. The truth. She said it like the truth was obvious. Like I was guilty and confession was just a formality. I'll have my lawyer contact you. You have until 5 p.m. After that, we'll issue a warrant. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone. 5 p.m. 8 hours. 8 hours before they came for me. 8 hours before I was arrested and processed and booked and photographed. 8 hours before my mugshot was on every news site in America. I called David. He answered on the first ring. Laura, where are you? The FBI wants me to come in. Today. By 5. Shit. I heard him moving. Papers rustling. Okay. Don't panic. This is standard. They want to pressure you. They want you scared. We can handle this. They froze my accounts. Silence. Then all of them. Everything. More silence. Longer this time. I could hear him thinking. Calculating. Figuring out how much this was going to cost him. How much risk he was taking by representing me. Laura, I need to be honest with you. This case is going to be expensive. Very expensive. Federal investigations. Forensic accountants. Expert witnesses. We're looking at $500,000. Maybe more. I don't have $500,000. I don't have any dollars. They froze everything. I know. That's why we need to talk about payment arrangements. I can front some costs initially, but I'll need guarantees. Assets we can leverage. Property. Investments. Something. I laughed. That bitter sound again. I rent an apartment, David. I drive a leased car. Everything I have is frozen or tied up in retirement accounts I can't access. I have nothing to leverage. Then we have a problem. You're dropping me. I'm not dropping you. I'm being realistic. This investigation could take years. The costs will be astronomical. And if you can't pay, you can't afford to represent me. Laura, it's fine. I understand. You're a businessman. This doesn't make business sense. I felt numb. Empty. Thanks for your honesty. Wait, there might be another option. If you cooperate with the FBI, if you give them information on other people involved, they might offer immunity. A plea deal. Something. I don't have information. I didn't do anything wrong. Then tell them that. Tell them everything you know about how the campaign operated. About Marcus. About the other staffers. Give them something to work with. You want me to be a witness against Marcus. I want you to save yourself. This is politics, Laura. Marcus threw you to the wolves. You don't owe him anything. David's voice softened. Look, I'll make some calls. I'll see if I can get you in front of a prosecutor who's willing to deal. But you need to be smart about this. You need to think about survival. He hung up. I sat there. Survival. That was what it came down to. Not justice. Not truth. Survival. Doing whatever it took to avoid prison. To avoid destruction. Even if it meant becoming exactly what they accused me of being. A traitor. An informant. Someone who would say anything to save herself. I looked at the burner phone. At Richard Chen's offer. At Governor Walsh's deal. It was starting to make sense now. This was the choice. This was the moment. I could go to the FBI and cooperate. I could become a witness against Marcus and hope they offered me immunity. Hope they believed me. Hope they didn't decide I was lying to save myself. Or I could take Walsh's deal. I could use the evidence in the folder to clear my name. I could fight back with resources and power and protection. I could destroy Marcus the same way he had tried to destroy me. My laptop pinged. An email. The subject line made my blood stop. Termination of employment. I opened it. It was from my last remaining client, a congressional candidate in Texas. Someone I had been advising remotely. Someone who had promised me a full-time position if he won. The email was short, professional, devastating. Dear Laura, given recent developments and the serious nature of the allegations against you, we have decided to terminate our consulting agreement effective immediately. We appreciate your contributions to the campaign but feel this is the best decision for all parties involved. We wish you well. I closed the laptop. I pressed my palms against my eyes. I would not cry. I would not break. I would not give Marcus the satisfaction. But the tears came anyway. Hot, angry, helpless. I had lost everything. My job, my clients, my reputation, my savings, my lawyer. Everything I had built over 15 years. Gone in less than 24 hours. And Marcus was in Washington celebrating, planning his transition, hiring staff, building his Senate office, living the life I had created for him. Someone knocked on the door. Hard, urgent. I froze. The FBI. They had found me. They weren't waiting until 5. They were coming now. I walked to the door. Looked through the peephole. Not the FBI. Worse. A woman I recognized. Julia Santos. Investigative reporter. The kind who won Pulitzers for destroying political careers. She had a camera crew behind her. Ms. Hastings, I know you're in there. I just want to ask you a few questions. I didn't answer. I stepped back from the door. Did you steal money from Marcus Reeves's campaign? Did you betray his trust? Do you have anything to say to the voters who believed in him? The camera was rolling. I could hear it. She was broadcasting this, streaming it live. My silence, my hiding, my guilt. This was how they would tell the story. The corrupt operative refusing to face the truth. My phone rang. The burner phone. Picked it up. Laura. Richard Chen's voice. I'm watching the news. They found you. How did they find me? Does it matter? They're going to camp outside that hotel until you come out. And when you do, they'll film you. They'll twist every word, every expression, every moment of weakness. He paused. Or you can let me send a car. Right now. We can get you out the back entrance. We can take you somewhere safe. Somewhere they can't find you. What's the cost? Your answer. Yes or no. Are you working with us or are you facing this alone? I looked around the hotel room, at the evidence on the desk, at the life I used to have slipping away, at the choice that wasn't really a choice anymore. I could surrender to the FBI and hope for mercy. I could cooperate and beg and pray they believed me. I could spend years fighting charges with no money and no lawyer and no hope. Or I could fight back. Yes, I said. Good. The car will be there in 5 minutes. Pack everything. Leave your personal phone. Bring only the burner and the evidence. Richard's voice was all business now. Welcome to the team, Laura. Let's go destroy Marcus Reeves. I packed in 3 minutes. The evidence went into a leather messenger bag Richard had left in the folder. My personal phone went in the trash. I kept only the burner, the clothes I was wearing, nothing else. Everything else was evidence. Everything else could be tracked. Julia Santos was still outside the door, still asking questions, still performing for her camera. I ignored her. I called the front desk on the hotel phone. This is room 1847. I need to check out. Can someone meet me at the service elevator? The desk clerk hesitated. Ma'am, there are reporters in the lobby. I know. That's why I'm using the service elevator. I'm not sure we can. I paid cash for this room. I'm not breaking any laws by leaving. Either you help me or I walk through your lobby and turn this hotel into a circus. My voice was steel. Cold. The voice of someone who had nothing left to lose. Your choice. I'll send someone up. 5 minutes later, a nervous hotel manager met me at the service elevator. He didn't ask questions. He just led me down 3 floors through a laundry room, past industrial washers and cleaning carts, and out a door that opened into an alley. A black SUV was waiting. Tinted windows. No plates. The back door opened. I got in. The door closed behind me. The SUV pulled away before I even had my seatbelt on. Richard Chun sat in the front passenger seat. He didn't turn around. Good. You move fast. That's important. Where are we going? Alexandria. Governor Walsh has a house there. Private. Secure. No one will find you. He glanced back at me. How much did you bring? I held up the messenger bag. Everything you gave me. Nothing else. Your phone? In the trash. Good. He handed me a new phone. Sleek. Expensive. This one is clean. Encrypted. Only 3 numbers programmed. Mine. Walsh's chief of staff. And a lawyer named Michael Brennan. He's the best criminal defense attorney in the country. He's also on Walsh's payroll. He'll be representing you. I can't afford. Walsh is covering it. Consider it an advance on your salary. Richard's smile was thin. You're working for her now, Laura. That means she protects you. She pays for your defense. She provides security. She gives you everything you need to fight back. In return, you give her everything you have. Your expertise. Your knowledge. Your willingness to do whatever it takes to win. I looked at the phone in my hand. At the 3 numbers. My entire life reduced to 3 contacts. 3 people who had a use for me. What about the FBI? They want me in by 5. Michael will handle it. He'll negotiate. He'll buy time. He'll make sure they understand that you're not some low-level operative they can bully into a confession. Richard turned to face me now. His eyes were sharp. Assessing. You need to understand something, Laura. This isn't just about clearing your name. This is about destroying Marcus. Completely. Permanently. We're going to use everything in that bag to build a case against him. We're going to feed it to the FBI. To the press. To his donors. To his constituents. We're going to make him toxic. And then we're going to watch his career burn. And Walsh gets what she wants. A presidential campaign with no rivals. Walsh gets justice. Marcus stole that Senate seat through fraud. He belongs in prison, not Congress. Richard's voice hardened. But yes, Walsh benefits. That's how this works. You help her, she helps you. That's politics. The SUV merged onto the highway. We drove in silence. I watched the city disappear behind us. I thought about Marcus. About how he was probably in meetings right now. Selecting his chief of staff. Picking his committee assignments. Planning his first bill. Acting like a legitimate senator. Acting like he hadn't committed fraud to get there. Trevor would be sitting in some office with his new title. His new salary. His new power. Celebrating his betrayal. Pretending he had earned it. And all the people who had abandoned me occupied my mind too. I thought about all the people who had abandoned me. Who had blocked my number. Who had decided I was guilty without asking a single question. Who had chosen their careers over the truth. The anger was solid now. Not hot anymore. Cold. Focused. Clear. This was what I needed. This was the fuel. Marcus had tried to destroy me. He had failed. And now I was going to show him what destruction really looked like. The SUV pulled off the highway. We drove through Alexandria. Past historic homes and tree-lined streets. Into a gated community with private security and cameras at every entrance. The SUV stopped in front of a federal-style mansion. Brick. Columns. Elegant. The kind of house that cost millions. The kind of house that telegraphed power. Richard opened my door. Welcome to Walsh's headquarters. This is where we plan. Where we strategize. Where we build campaigns that win. He led me up the steps. And where we destroy the people who deserve it. The front door opened before we reached it. A woman stood there. 50s. Gray hair cut short. Sharp suit. Sharper eyes. I recognized her from 1,000 news articles. Governor Patricia Walsh. 3 terms. Undefeated. Ruthless. The woman Marcus had beaten in the primary by calling her corrupt. By saying she represented everything wrong with politics. She looked at me. Not with pity. Not with sympathy. With calculation. Laura Hastings. I've heard a lot about you. Governor Walsh. Just Patricia. We're not formal here. She stepped aside. Come in. We have work to do. The house was beautiful inside. Antiques. Art. Books. But it wasn't a home. It was an office. The dining room had been converted into a war room. Screens on the walls showing news feeds. A conference table covered in documents and laptops. 3 staffers working furiously. This was where Walsh ran her operation, where she planned her next move. Patricia led me to the table. She poured 2 glasses of water. She sat down across from me. Richard stood behind her. A united front. Richard tells me you're ready to work with us. I am. Good. Then let's be clear about what that means. Patricia's voice was measured, professional. I'm not doing this out of kindness. I'm doing this because Marcus Reeves is a criminal who stole an election. And because having you on my team serves my interests. I want that Senate seat back. I want Marcus in prison. And I want to run for president without him standing in my way. I understand. Do you? Because this is going to get ugly, Laura. We're going to drag Marcus through the mud. We're going to expose every lie, every crime, every dirty deal. And you're going to be at the center of it. You're going to testify. You're going to give interviews. You're going to relive the worst night of your life over and over again. Patricia leaned forward. Can you handle that? I met her eyes. Can I handle destroying the man who tried to destroy me? Yes, I can handle that. Patricia smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator recognizing another predator. Then let's talk strategy. Show me what you have. I opened the messenger bag. I spread the evidence across the table. Bank statements, emails, phone logs, testimony, everything Richard had given me, everything that proved Marcus was guilty. Patricia picked up each document. She read carefully, methodically. Her face showed nothing, but I could see her mind working, calculating, planning. This is good, she said finally. This is very good. But it's not enough. What do you mean? I mean that Marcus's lawyers will claim these documents are fabricated, that we manufactured them to frame him, that you're a bitter employee seeking revenge. Patricia set down the papers. We need something bigger. Something he can't deny. Something public. Like what? Like Marcus confessing on live television. Patricia's smile widened. There's going to be a special debate in 3 weeks. The governor is required to certify the election results, but there's been enough scandal that she's calling for a public forum first. Marcus versus the runner-up candidate. A chance to address the allegations. To prove everything is legitimate. I understood immediately. You want me to prep the runner-up? No. The runner-up is useless. He's a weak candidate who lost by 20 points. He can't touch Marcus. Patricia leaned back in her chair. But you can. You know everything about Marcus. You built his campaign. You know his weaknesses, his triggers, his psychological vulnerabilities. You know exactly what questions will break him. You want me to feed questions to the moderators. I want you to design an ambush. I want you to craft questions that will back Marcus into a corner. Questions he can't dodge. Questions that will force him to either lie under pressure or admit the truth. Patricia's eyes gleamed. And I want you to predict his responses. Every deflection. Every excuse. Every strategy he'll try. So that the follow-up questions are already waiting. So that he has nowhere to run. It was brilliant. And vicious. Marcus was good on camera. He was charming. Rehearsed. But he was also arrogant. He thought he was the smartest person in any room. He thought he could talk his way out of anything. If we pushed the right buttons, if we trapped him in the right way, he would crack. He would say something he couldn't take back. Something that would destroy him. What about the FBI investigation? I asked. They want me in for questioning today. Michael Brennan is handling it. He'll tell them you're cooperating fully but need time to organize your defense. He'll buy us a few weeks. Maybe a month. Patricia stood. But we need to move fast. The debate is in 3 weeks. That's our window. That's when we strike. Richard handed me a laptop. Everything we know about Marcus is in here. Every interview he's ever given. Every speech. Every public appearance. Start analyzing. Find the cracks. Find the moments when he gets defensive. When he gets angry. When he loses control. What about Trevor? I heard myself ask. He was part of this. He helped Marcus frame me. Patricia's smile turned cold. Trevor gets what's coming to him. After we're done with Marcus. One monster at a time, Laura. I took the laptop. I felt the weight of it. The power of it. This was my weapon now. My chance. Not just to clear my name. To destroy the people who had destroyed me. When do we start? Now. Patricia walked to the war room screens. She pulled up footage of Marcus. His victory speech. His interviews. His press conferences. You're going to teach me everything you know about how Marcus thinks. How he operates. How he breaks. And then we're going to use that knowledge to end him. I sat down at the table. I opened the laptop. I looked at Marcus's face on the screen. That smile. That confidence. That certainty that he had won. That he had gotten away with it. He hadn't gotten away with anything. He had just given me time to prepare. Time to plan. Time to become something he never expected. I wasn't his victim anymore. I wasn't his employee. I wasn't the woman he had thrown away. I was the weapon that was going to destroy him. I spent 3 weeks in that house. 3 weeks studying Marcus like he was a dissertation. 3 weeks dissecting every word he had ever spoken. Every gesture. Every tell. I watched his interviews on loop. I analyzed his debate performances. I read his speeches. I tracked his patterns. Marcus was predictable. That was his weakness. He thought he was clever, but he always used the same tactics. When confronted with difficult questions, he pivoted to his talking points. When pressed on specifics, he attacked the questioner's credibility. When backed into a corner, he played the victim. Every single time. Like clockwork. I built a psychological profile. I mapped his triggers. I identified the exact phrases that made him defensive. The topics that made him angry. The accusations that made him lose his composure. Then I crafted questions designed to exploit every single vulnerability. Michael Brennan bought me time with the FBI. He negotiated. He stalled. He filed motions. He convinced them that I was cooperating but needed to prepare my testimony properly. Special Agent Morgan wasn't happy about it, but she agreed to wait. For now. The clock was ticking. But I had enough time. Enough space to breathe. Enough freedom to plan. The media was relentless. Julia Santos ran a 3-part series on me. The woman who betrayed Marcus Reeves. Each episode more damaging than the last. Anonymous sources claiming I had been stealing from campaigns for years. Former colleagues saying they had always suspected something was off. Friends from college suddenly remembering that I had been ambitious. Ruthless. Willing to do anything to get ahead. None of it was true. All of it stuck. That was how character assassination worked. You didn't need facts. You just needed a narrative that people wanted to believe. And people wanted to believe that Marcus was the victim. That I was the villain. Fit their worldview. It made sense. Patricia watched the coverage with satisfaction. Good. Let them think you're finished. Let them think you're hiding. When we strike, it will be that much more devastating. I worked 18-hour days. I barely slept. I lived on coffee and adrenaline and rage. Patricia's staffers brought me everything I needed. Research. Data. Opposition files. We built a case that was airtight. We prepared for every possible response Marcus could give. We created a web of questions that would trap him no matter which direction he ran. The debate moderators were easy to influence. Patricia had connections. Donors. Friends in media. She didn't tell them what to ask directly. She just made sure the right research landed on their desks. The right documents. The right questions that any good journalist would want answered. We planted the seeds. We let them think they were doing their job. Being thorough. Holding Marcus accountable. 2 days before the debate, Michael Brennan called. The FBI wants to interview you next week. I can't stall anymore. You need to be ready. I will be. Laura, they have your bank records. Your emails. Your phone logs. They're building a case. Even with everything we have to prove Marcus framed you, this is going to be difficult. He paused. Are you sure you want to go through with this debate plan? If Marcus realizes you're behind it, if he accuses you publicly, it could hurt your defense. He won't realize it. He thinks I'm too broken to fight back. He thinks I'm finished. I stared at Marcus's face on the screen in front of me. Frozen mid-smile. That's his mistake. Okay. Just be careful. One wrong move and this whole thing collapses. The night before the debate, Patricia gathered everyone in the war room. Her staff. Her lawyers. Richard Chun. Me. She looked at each of us. Tomorrow night, Marcus Reeves is going to self-destruct on live television. Millions of people will watch him lie. Will watch him squirm. Will watch him reveal exactly who he is. She turned to me. Laura has given us the blueprint. Now we execute. I didn't sleep that night either. I ran through the questions one more time. Anticipated every possible answer. Every deflection. Every strategy. I knew Marcus better than he knew himself. I had spent 18 months studying how he thought. How he reacted. How he performed under pressure. I had built him into a senator. Now I was going to tear him down. The debate was scheduled for 7 p.m. Live broadcast. Every major network. Streaming online. The entire state would be watching. Maybe the entire country. This was the moment that would determine whether Marcus kept his Senate seat. Whether the election results would be certified. Whether justice existed. Patricia and I arrived at the venue early. A theater in downtown Richmond. Historic. Elegant. The kind of place that made everything feel important. Official. We entered through a back door. Patricia knew people. Security waved us through. We made our way to a private box on the second level. Dark. Secluded. We could see everything. No one could see us. Nervous? Patricia asked. No. It was true. I wasn't nervous. I was focused. Clear. This was what I had been building toward. This was my shot. He's going to try to control the narrative. He'll come out strong. Confident. Presidential. And then the questions start. And then he falls apart. I pulled out my notes. The psychological profile. The predicted responses. Question 3 is the key. It's about the shell companies. He'll deny knowledge. He'll claim it was handled by staff. That's when the moderator hits him with the follow-up. The emails that prove he authorized everything. His signature. His instructions. Patricia smiled. And if he tries to blame you? Then they show the forensic analysis. The proof that my signatures were forged. The testimony from the accountant. The timeline that proves I couldn't have done what he's accusing me of. I looked at her. We've covered every angle. Every exit. Every escape route. He has nowhere to go. The theater began to fill. Audience members. Press. Officials. I watched them take their seats. The energy built. Cameras moved into position. This was real. This was happening. In 2 hours everything would change. Marcus arrived at 6:30. I watched him walk in through the front entrance. He was surrounded by staff. Trevor was with him. Of course Trevor was with him. Marcus's new chief of staff. His right hand. His loyal servant. They looked confident. Relaxed. Like this was just another event. Just another performance. They had no idea what was coming. The moderators took their positions. 3 journalists. All respected. All thorough. All armed with questions that would destroy Marcus. They didn't know I had helped craft those questions. They didn't know Patricia had fed them research. They just knew they had a job to do. They were going to do it well. 7 p.m. The lights went down. The cameras went live. The moderator introduced the format. The rules. The stakes. Then Marcus walked onto the stage. He smiled. He waved. He looked like a senator. Like someone who belonged there. Like someone who had earned it. The first question was soft. A setup. Senator-elect Reeves, congratulations on your victory. How do you feel about representing the people of this state? Marcus delivered his prepared answer. Humble. Grateful. Focused on service. It was perfect. Exactly what he had practiced. The audience applauded. He was winning already. The second question was harder. There have been serious allegations regarding campaign finance violations. Can you address those concerns? Marcus's smile tightened. Just slightly. Just enough that I noticed. I'm glad you asked that. These allegations are deeply troubling to me. I've always run my campaigns with integrity and transparency. When I learned that my finance director may have engaged in illegal activity, I was shocked. Disappointed. But I immediately called for a full investigation. I will not protect anyone who breaks the law. He was good. Calm. Sincere. He looked directly at the camera. He looked like someone telling the truth. The audience was buying it. I could feel it. He was going to get away with this. He was going to survive. Then came question 3. Senator-elect Reeves, we've obtained documents that show shell companies were used to funnel illegal donations into your campaign. These companies were created specifically to bypass contribution limits. Can you explain your involvement in setting up these entities? Marcus's face changed. Just for a second. Flash of something. Surprise. Anger. Fear. Then he recovered. I had no involvement in setting up any shell companies. That would have been handled by my finance team. I trusted them to follow the law. The moderator didn't pause. Didn't give him space to breathe. But sir, we have emails with your personal account authorizing payments to these shell companies. We have bank records showing transfers from your accounts. How do you explain that if you had no involvement? Marcus froze. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I would need to see those documents. I'm not aware of any such emails. We can show them to you now. The screens behind the moderators lit up. Emails, dates, amounts, Marcus's name at the top, his signature at the bottom. Clear, undeniable, damning. The theater went silent. Every eye in the room was on Marcus. Waiting, watching. He stared at the screens. His jaw tightened. His hands clenched at his sides. He was losing control. I could see it happening. The mask was slipping. Those emails are taken out of context, he said finally. His voice was harder now. Defensive. I receive hundreds of emails a day. I don't personally review every transaction, but these emails specifically mention avoiding contribution limits. They discuss routing money through multiple entities to hide the source. You responded to them. You approved them. The moderator leaned forward. Senator-elect Reeves, did you or did you not authorize illegal campaign contributions? Marcus's face flushed red. I authorized payments to legitimate vendors. If someone on my staff misrepresented those vendors, that's not my fault. Whose fault is it? My finance director, Laura Hastings. She was responsible for vetting all financial transactions. She clearly failed to do her job. Marcus's voice rose. Or worse, she deliberately engaged in fraud and tried to cover it up. There it was. The deflection. The blame. Exactly what I had predicted. Exactly what we had prepared for. The second moderator jumped in. Mr. Reeves, we also have forensic analysis of documents bearing Ms. Hastings' signature. Multiple experts have concluded that those signatures were digitally forged. That authorization codes were stolen and used without her knowledge. How do you respond to that? Marcus stared. He looked like he had been punched. That's impossible. Laura was the finance director. She had access to everything. She had access. But the forensic timeline shows she was in different locations when many of these transactions occurred. She couldn't have authorized them. Someone else did. Someone who had her passwords, her codes, her digital signature. The moderator paused. Someone like you. The audience gasped. Actual gasps. Like a movie. Like theater. Marcus looked at the crowd. At the cameras. At the moderators. He was trapped. He knew it. I could see it in his eyes. That panic. That realization that there was no way out. This is a setup, he said. His voice was shaking now. This is a political hit job. Governor Walsh is behind this. She's trying to overturn the election because she can't accept that she lost. Governor Walsh is not asking these questions. We are. Based on evidence that has been provided to us by multiple sources, including the FBI. The third moderator spoke now. Her voice was ice. Mr. Reeves, did you frame Laura Hastings for crimes you committed? Marcus's composure shattered. No. This is insane. You're twisting everything. You're taking complex financial transactions and making them sound criminal when they're not. Then explain them. Walk us through one transaction. Show us how it was legal. He couldn't. He opened his mouth but nothing came out. He looked at his notes. At his staff in the wings. At Trevor standing there with his face pale and his eyes wide. No one was helping him. No one could help him. He was alone on that stage with the truth closing in. I don't have to answer these questions, Marcus said finally. This debate is supposed to be about policy, about my vision for the state, not about baseless accusations from my political enemies. These aren't baseless accusations. These are documented facts. Facts that suggest you committed fraud, that you stole an election, that you destroyed an innocent woman's career to cover up your crimes. The first moderator stood. One more question, Mr. Reeves. Did you knowingly violate campaign finance law? Marcus stared at him, at all of them, at the cameras broadcasting this to millions. His face was red. His hands were shaking. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He looked guilty. He looked caught. He looked exactly like what he was. A liar. A fraud. A criminal. This interview is over. Marcus tore off his microphone. He walked off the stage. Just walked away. Left the moderators sitting there. Left the audience stunned. Left the cameras rolling on an empty podium. The theater exploded. Reporters rushed forward. Audience members shouted questions. The moderators looked at each other in shock. They had just witnessed a confession. Not in words. In action. In retreat. In the desperate flight of a guilty man. I sat in the dark box with Patricia. I felt nothing. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just cold clarity. This was the beginning. Not the end. Marcus had just destroyed himself on live television. Now the real work started. Patricia's phone rang. She answered. Listen. Smiled. The FBI just issued a statement. They're opening a criminal investigation into Marcus Reeves. They want to question him tomorrow. She looked at me. You did it, Laura. You broke him. I watched the chaos below. Watched Marcus's staff scrambling. Watched Trevor trying to control the damage. Watched reporters filing their stories. Watched everything I had built come to fruition. No, I said. He broke himself. I just showed the world who he really was. The next morning, Marcus's face was on every screen in America. Not the confident senator-elect. Not the charismatic candidate. The man caught in a lie. The man who had walked off stage. The man who had self-destructed in front of millions. The headlines were brutal. Reeves flees debate after fraud questions. Senate candidate accused of framing staff member. FBI investigates Marcus Reeves for campaign finance crimes. Every network. Every newspaper. Every website. The story had gone national. Global. This wasn't just a state scandal anymore. This was a case study in political corruption. I sat in Patricia's war room and watched it unfold. Watched Marcus's world collapse in real time. His donors withdrew support. His party leadership distanced themselves. The governor announced she was delaying certification of the election results pending the FBI investigation. Everything Marcus had built was crumbling. Everything he had stolen was being taken away. My phone rang. The encrypted one. Michael Brennan. Laura, the FBI wants to meet with you today. Special Agent Morgan is ready to take your statement. They believe you. They want your cooperation against Marcus. When? 2 hours. I'll be with you the entire time. Just tell them the truth. Show them the evidence. Walk them through everything. His voice was confident now. Assured. This is it, Laura. This is where you get your life back. I met with the FBI at a field office in Washington. Michael sat beside me. Special Agent Morgan sat across from me. She looked different than she had sounded on the phone. Younger. Sharper. She had a recorder between us and a thick file of documents spread across the table. Ms. Hastings, thank you for coming in. I know this has been a difficult time for you. Her voice was professional. Measured. I want to start by saying that our investigation has expanded significantly. We now believe you were the victim of a sophisticated fraud scheme orchestrated by Marcus Reeves. I felt something loosen in my chest. Relief. Validation. Someone in authority believed me. Thank you. We've reviewed the forensic analysis of the documents. We've examined the timeline. We've interviewed witnesses. Everything points to Reeves using your credentials without authorization. Using your position to cover his illegal activities. Morgan leaned forward. We want to hear your side. Everything you know. Everything you saw. Everything that happened. I told her everything. I started with the campaign. How Marcus had hired me. how I had built his strategy, how I had vetted every donation personally, how I had followed every rule, every regulation, every law. I told her about election night, about the news breaking, about Marcus's statement, about Trevor's betrayal, about being thrown out of the victory party while my life fell apart. Morgan took notes, asked questions, clarified details. She was thorough, professional. She wasn't trying to trap me. She was trying to build a case. Against Marcus, not against me. The emails we recovered from Reeves's personal server show he had access to your authorization codes. He copied them months before the election. He used them to approve transactions you never saw. Morgan pulled out printouts, showed me evidence. He also communicated with his lawyer about how to frame you if the scheme was ever discovered. They planned this, Miss Hastings. They planned to sacrifice you from the beginning. I stared at the emails, at Marcus's words, at the cold calculation, at the proof that I had never been a trusted colleague, never been a partner. I had always been the designated fall guy, the person who would take the blame if anything went wrong. He had used me for 18 months and then thrown me away without hesitation. I want him destroyed, I said. My voice was quiet, cold. I want him in prison. I want everyone to know what he did. Morgan nodded. We're going to make that happen. But we need your full cooperation. You'll need to testify before a grand jury. You'll need to provide all communications you had with Reeves. You'll need to be available for depositions. She paused. This could take months, maybe longer. Can you commit to that? Yes. Good. Morgan closed her file. As of this moment, you are no longer a suspect. You are a witness, a victim. We're going to clear your name publicly. We're going to release a statement explaining that you were framed, that you did nothing wrong. She looked at Michael. We're also going to unfreeze her accounts, return her assets, make this right. Michael smiled. Thank you, Agent Morgan. We appreciate your professionalism. We left the FBI office 2 hours later. The sun was bright. The air was cold. I felt lighter. The weight I had been carrying for weeks was gone. I was innocent. Officially. The FBI believed me. They were going to clear my name. They were going to restore what Marcus had stolen. My phone buzzed. A news alert. FBI clears Laura Hastings. Names Marcus Reeves primary suspect in fraud case. Another buzz. Hastings was victim of elaborate frame job. Investigators say. Another. Marcus Reeves faces federal charges, could spend decades in prison. It was happening. Justice. Real justice. Not revenge. Not political games. Actual consequences for actual crimes. Marcus was going to pay. Not just with his career. With his freedom. Michael drove me back to Alexandria. Back to Patricia's mansion. Back to the war room where everything had been planned. Patricia was waiting. She had champagne ready. 2 glasses poured. She handed me one. To justice, she said. To justice, I repeated. We drank. The champagne was expensive. Perfect. Tasted like victory. The governor is going to announce tomorrow that the election results are being overturned. Marcus is disqualified. There will be a special election in 6 months. Patricia set down her glass. I'm running. And I want you as my campaign manager. I looked at her. At this woman who had given me resources when no one else would. Who had believed me when everyone thought I was guilty. Who had helped me destroy the man who tried to destroy me. I'm honored. Don't be honored. Be effective. I'm not hiring you out of charity. I'm hiring you because you're the best. Because you know how to win. Because you just orchestrated one of the most devastating political takedowns I've ever seen. Patricia's eyes gleamed. And because after I win this Senate seat, I'm running for president. I want you with me for that too. This was the deal. This was the cost of my revenge. I would work for Patricia. I would build her campaigns. I would help her accumulate power. And in return I would have resources, protection, career, a future. Everything Marcus had tried to take from me. What about Trevor? I asked. Patricia smiled. Trevor is currently being questioned by the FBI. Turns out he was aware of Marcus's fraud scheme. He helped cover it up. He's going to be charged as an accessory. She paused. He'll probably flip on Marcus to save himself. But either way, his career is over. No one will ever hire him again. Good. Trevor deserved it. He had betrayed me for a promotion. Now he would lose everything. Just like I almost had. Just like Marcus was about to. The next 3 months were a blur. Marcus was arrested. Charged with 15 counts of campaign finance fraud. Money laundering. Wire fraud. Obstruction of justice. His bail was set at $5 million. He posted it. But his life was over. His law license was suspended. His party expelled him. His wife filed for divorce. His donors sued him for return of their contributions. Everything he had built was ash. Trevor cut a deal. He testified against Marcus in exchange for reduced charges. He admitted everything. How they had planned to frame me. How they had forged my signatures. How they had stolen my codes. His testimony was devastating. Detailed. Damning. The jury would have no choice but to convict. My accounts were unfrozen. My assets restored. I paid Michael Brennan. I paid my back rent. I started rebuilding. Slowly. Carefully. The media apologized. Sort of. They ran correction pieces. Laura Hastings, the woman we got wrong. How Marcus Reeves fooled everyone, including us. They didn't admit they had destroyed my reputation without evidence. They just moved on. Found the next story. The next scandal. The next victim. Julia Santos called me. Wanted an interview. Wanted to do a redemption piece. Laura Hastings from scapegoat to survivor. I declined. I didn't need her redemption. I didn't need her platform. I had my own power now. My own voice. My own future. Patricia won the special election. Easily. By 30 points. The voters wanted someone they could trust. Someone who fought corruption. Someone who had exposed Marcus Reeves. She was perfect for the role. And I was right beside her. Campaign manager. Chief strategist. The woman who had taken down a senator. 6 months after the debate, Marcus went to trial. I testified. I sat in that witness box and told the truth. About the campaign. About the fraud. About the frame job. About everything he had done to me. Marcus sat at the defense table and stared at me with hatred. Pure, undiluted hatred. He knew I had destroyed him. He knew I had won. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Marcus Reeves was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. No parole. No early release. 12 years for stealing an election. For framing an innocent woman. For thinking he was smart enough to get away with it. I watched them take him away in handcuffs. Watched him walk out of that courtroom in an orange jumpsuit. Watched his empire reduced to nothing. I felt nothing. No joy. No satisfaction. Just cold finality. This chapter was over. This fight was won. Justice had been served. Patricia announced her presidential campaign 2 weeks later. I stood beside her on stage. Her campaign manager. Her strategist. Her partner. The woman who had helped her defeat Marcus Reeves. The woman who knew how to win. The crowd cheered. The cameras flashed. The reporters shouted questions. I looked out at all of them. At the machinery of politics. At the game I had learned to play. At the power I had earned through survival. I wasn't the same person who had stood in that ballroom on election night. I wasn't naive anymore. I wasn't trusting. I wasn't someone who believed that working hard and playing by the rules was enough. I had learned the truth. Power was the only thing that mattered. The willingness to fight. The willingness to destroy your enemies before they destroyed you. Marcus had tried to teach me that lesson by making me his victim. Instead, he had created something he never anticipated. A survivor. A fighter. A woman who understood exactly how brutal this game could be. And who was willing to play it better than anyone. Patricia stepped up to the microphone. She began her speech. Her vision for America. Her promise to fight corruption. Her pledge to be different. Better. The crowd ate it up. They believed her. They wanted to believe her. Just like they had wanted to believe Marcus. I stood behind her and smiled. Not because I believed the speech. But because I had written it. Because I knew exactly how to make people believe. How to craft a message. How to build a narrative. How to win. This was my life now. Building campaigns. Creating presidents. Wielding power through the people I helped elect. It wasn't the career I had imagined 15 years ago when I started in politics. But it was the career Marcus had given me. The career born from betrayal and survival, and the cold understanding that the only thing that mattered was winning. Patricia finished her speech. The crowd roared. She turned to me, shook my hand, smiled for the cameras. We were partners now. Allies. Two women who understood that power wasn't given. It was taken. It was earned. It was built on the ashes of the people who had tried to destroy you. I looked out at the crowd, at the future I was building, at the life I had created from nothing. Marcus was in prison. Trevor was in disgrace. I was on stage with the next potential president of the United States. I had won. Completely. Absolutely. Permanently. Not just the battle. The war. And I was just getting started. 2 years later, I stood in a hotel suite in Des Moines watching Patricia prepare for the Iowa caucuses. She was leading in the polls. Not by much, but enough. We had built a formidable campaign. Disciplined. Strategic. Ruthless when necessary. We had learned from Marcus. From his mistakes. From his arrogance. We didn't underestimate anyone. We didn't leave anything to chance. We played to win. My phone buzzed. A message from Richard Chun. Marcus up for parole hearing next month. Thought you'd want to know. I stared at the message. Marcus. I hadn't thought about him in months. He had become irrelevant. A footnote. A cautionary tale about political corruption. But apparently he was trying to get out early. Trying to convince a parole board that he had reformed. That he had learned his lesson. That he deserved a second chance. I typed back. Will he get it? No. The prosecution is fighting it. He'll serve his full sentence. Good. 12 years. He had 10 left. By the time he got out, he would be in his 50s. His career destroyed. His reputation ruined. His life reduced to whatever scraps he could salvage after a decade in federal prison. That was justice. That was what happened when you tried to destroy an innocent person to save yourself. Patricia came out of the bedroom. She wore a navy suit. Pearls. The uniform of a serious candidate. A presidential candidate. How do I look? Like the next president of the United States. She smiled. Good. Because that's exactly what I'm going to be. She checked her watch. The rally starts in an hour. Are we ready? We're ready. The speech is loaded into the teleprompter. The crowd is already gathering. Security is in place. Media is positioned. I handed her a folder. Here are the talking points if reporters ask about the healthcare plan. Stick to these. Don't get pulled into the weeds. Patricia took the folder. She didn't open it. She knew I had prepared everything. She trusted me. That was what 2 years of winning together had built. Trust. Partnership. The understanding that we were both willing to do whatever it took to reach the White House. How are you doing? What do you mean? I mean, 2 years ago you were facing federal charges. Your life was in ruins. Marcus had destroyed your reputation. Now you're running a presidential campaign. Now you're one of the most powerful political operatives in the country. Patricia sat down. That's a lot of change in a short time. Are you okay? I considered the question. Was I okay? I didn't know. I wasn't the person I used to be. The woman who believed in integrity and transparency and playing by the rules. That woman was gone. She had died the night Marcus threw her out of his victory party. The woman who replaced her was harder, colder, more calculating. She understood that politics was war. That the only morality was winning. That mercy was weakness. I'm fine, I said. You're not fine. You're angry. You've been angry for 2 years. I've watched it drive you. Make you brilliant. Make you relentless. Patricia leaned forward. But anger burns out eventually, Laura. What happens when it's gone? What happens when we win the White House and you've gotten everything you wanted? What drives you then? I didn't have an answer. I hadn't thought that far ahead. I had spent 2 years focused on one goal. Getting Patricia elected. Proving I could rebuild. Proving Marcus hadn't broken me. But what came after? What did I want beyond revenge? Beyond vindication? Beyond power? I don't know, I said finally. I guess we'll find out. Patricia nodded. Just don't lose yourself completely. I need you sharp, effective, but I also need you human. The best campaign managers understand people. They understand emotion. They understand hope. If you turn into a pure tactician with no heart, you'll lose your edge. I understand people just fine. That's how I destroyed Marcus. You destroyed Marcus because you understood his weaknesses, his ego, his arrogance. But that's not the same as understanding what makes people vote, what makes them believe, what makes them hope for something better. Patricia stood. Don't forget that, Laura. Don't forget that campaigns are won by inspiring people, not just by destroying enemies. She left for the rally. I stayed in the suite. I thought about what she had said, about anger, about humanity, about whether I had lost something essential in my transformation from victim to victor. I looked at myself in the mirror. Same face, same eyes, but something was different. Something was missing. The softness, the vulnerability, the part of me that believed people were fundamentally good. That had burned away. That was gone forever. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello, Laura. A man's voice. Familiar. Wrong. It's Trevor. My blood turned to ice. How did you get this number? I still have connections. People who owe me favors. He sounded different. Smaller. Defeated. I wanted to talk to you. To apologize. You're 2 years too late. I know. I know I can't undo what I did. I betrayed you. I chose my career over our friendship. Over what was right. His voice cracked. I've lost everything, Laura. My reputation. My career. My wife left me. My friends won't talk to me. I'm working at a consulting firm making $40,000 a year. I went from chief of staff to nobody in 6 months. Good. I deserve it. I know I deserve it. But I also know I can't move forward until I try to make things right. Until I tell you I'm sorry. Until I ask for your forgiveness. I laughed. That bitter sound I had perfected. You want forgiveness? For helping Marcus frame me for fraud? For standing on that stage while he destroyed my life? For choosing a promotion over the truth? Yes. Then you're going to be waiting a long time. I don't forgive you, Trevor. I don't think about you. You're not important enough to hate anymore. You're just someone who made a choice. And now you're living with the consequences. Just like Marcus. Just like everyone who decided I was expendable. Laura, please. I hung up. I blocked the number. I erased him from my phone. From my life. From my memory. Trevor was nothing. He was a lesson about loyalty. About trust. About the cost of betrayal. But he wasn't worth my energy. He wasn't worth my time. He was just another casualty of the game we had all chosen to play. The Iowa caucuses came. Patricia won. Not by a landslide. But by enough. We moved to New Hampshire. We won there too. Then South Carolina. Then Super Tuesday. State after state. Victory after victory. We built momentum. We crushed opponents. We dominated the primary season. By June, Patricia had secured the nomination. By August, she was officially the Democratic candidate for president. I stood backstage at the convention and watched her accept the nomination. Watched 20,000 people cheer. Watched balloons fall from the ceiling. Watched history being made. Patricia Walsh. The woman who had been humiliated in a primary 2 years ago. Now the presidential nominee. Now one step away from the White House. Richard Chun appeared beside me. He looked older. Tired. But satisfied. We did it. Not yet. We still have to win the general. We will. The polls are good. The money is good. The organization is solid. Patricia is going to be president. He looked at me. And you're going to be one of the most powerful people in Washington. Chief of staff probably. Maybe even a cabinet position down the line. Everything you lost you've gotten back. Everything Marcus tried to take you've reclaimed. It's not about what Marcus took. It's about what I built. Is it? Richard's eyes were sharp. Because from where I'm standing you've spent 2 years punishing the people who hurt you. Marcus is in prison. Trevor is ruined. Everyone who abandoned you has been cut out of your life. You've built walls, Laura. High ones. and I'm not sure what's left inside them. What's left is focus, discipline, the willingness to do whatever it takes to win. And that's enough for you? I didn't answer. 'Cause I didn't know. Was it enough? To win? To accumulate power? To stand behind presidents and pull strings and shape history? Was that what I wanted? Or was it just what I had become because the alternative was being broken? Being destroyed? Being the victim Marcus had tried to make me? The general election campaign was brutal. 3 months of constant travel. Endless rallies. Debates. Attack ads. Opposition research. Crisis management. We fought for every vote. Every state. Every electoral college delegate. Patricia's opponent was strong. Well-funded. Ruthless. But we were better. We were smarter. We were more disciplined. We had learned from Marcus. From his mistakes. From his downfall. We didn't get arrogant. We didn't get sloppy. We stayed focused until the very end. Election night arrived. November. 2 years and 12 days after the night Marcus had destroyed my life. 2 years and 12 days since I had stood in a ballroom and watched my career collapse. Now I stood in a different ballroom. In a different city. Watching Patricia's victory party unfold. Watching the returns come in. Watching the map turn blue. State after state. Victory after victory. Patricia Walsh was going to be the next president of the United States. And I had made it happen. The networks called it at 11 p.m. Patricia won. The crowd erupted. Champagne flowed. Music blasted. Everyone celebrated. Everyone except me. I stood in the corner of the ballroom and felt nothing. No joy. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just empty clarity. I had won. I had rebuilt my career. I had helped elect a president. I had proven Marcus hadn't broken me. But I didn't feel victorious. I just felt tired. Patricia found me. She was crying. Happy tears. Overwhelmed tears. We did it, Laura. We won. You won. You're the one who's going to be president. I couldn't have done it without you. You built this campaign. You made this possible. She grabbed my hands. I want you in the White House with me. Chief of Staff. Senior advisor. Whatever title you want. Name it. I looked at her. At this woman who would lead the country. Who would make decisions that affected millions. Who would write her name in history books. And I realized I didn't want to be her chief of staff. I didn't want to work in the White House. I didn't want to be the person behind the curtain pulling strings. I had spent 2 years doing that. 2 years building campaigns and destroying enemies and playing the game better than anyone. And it hadn't made me whole. It had just made me good at winning. I need some time, I said. To figure out what I want. What comes next? Patricia's smile faded. Laura, I need you. The transition is going to be chaos. The first 100 days will define my presidency. I can't do this without you. Yes, you can. You have Richard. You have your team. You have everything you need. I pulled my hands away. I've spent 2 years running on anger and revenge and the need to prove I wasn't broken. But I am broken, Patricia. Marcus broke something in me. And winning didn't fix it. Power didn't fix it. This, I gestured at the celebration around us, doesn't fix it. Then what will? I didn't know. Maybe nothing. Maybe some things couldn't be fixed. Maybe surviving meant accepting that you were different now. Changed. Harder. That the person you used to be was gone and wasn't coming back. Maybe that was okay. Maybe that was just the cost of playing the game at this level. I don't know, I said. But I need to find out. I left the victory party. I walked out into the November night. Cold air hit my face. I heard the celebration behind me. The music. The cheers. The triumph. I kept walking. Away from it. Away from the campaign. Away from the life I had built on anger and survival, and the cold determination to never be a victim again. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Marcus Reeves denied parole. Will serve full sentence. I read it. Felt nothing. Marcus was in prison. Trevor was ruined. Patricia was president-elect. I was free. Vindicated. Successful. I had everything I had fought for. Everything I had sacrificed for. Everything I had become ruthless and calculating and hard to achieve. And I felt empty. I stopped walking. I stood on a street corner in the middle of the city. I looked up at the sky, at the stars hidden behind light pollution. I thought about who I used to be. Laura Hastings, campaign manager. Someone who believed in integrity, in fairness, in doing the right thing. That woman was gone, dead, murdered by Marcus and by Trevor, and by everyone who had abandoned her when it was convenient. The woman who replaced her was stronger, smarter, more powerful, but she was also alone. She had built walls so high that no one could hurt her, but also so high that no one could reach her. She had won the game, but she had lost herself in the process. Maybe that was the real lesson, that survival sometimes meant sacrificing the parts of yourself that made you vulnerable. That power required a coldness most people couldn't achieve. That winning at this level cost more than money or time. Cost your soul, your softness, your ability to trust, your belief that people were fundamentally good. Marcus had tried to destroy me. He had failed. But he had changed me. Permanently. Irrevocably. I wasn't his victim. But I wasn't who I used to be either. I was something else now. Something harder. Something that could survive in a world where loyalty was a weakness and mercy was a mistake. I was a survivor. A fighter. A winner. And that was all I knew how to be anymore. I turned around. I walked back toward the party. Toward Patricia. Toward the White House. Toward the life I had earned through blood and anger, and the refusal to stay broken. This was who I was now. This was what I had become. And maybe that was enough. Maybe survival was its own kind of victory. Maybe building a life from the ashes of your old one was all anyone could hope for. I wasn't the woman Marcus had tried to destroy. I was the woman who had destroyed him instead. And that would have to be enough.